Mr. Slover, I have a number of questions for you. The health insurance market is already highly concentrated. According to studies by the AMA, there's been a near total collapse of competition among health insurers. The cost of health insurance has also grown dramatically over the past 30 years. What effect does concentration in this market have on premium growth, worse customer service, or less choice for health insurance options?
Well, I think your question kind of contains the answer. The more the more concentration there is, the fewer choices are available in all levels of the marketplace. And when there are fewer choices, the ones who are offering those choices don't have to try as hard to make those choices attractive.
Thank you. Would the combination of Aetna, a dominant health insurer, with CVS Health, which is the largest pharmacy benefit manager and second largest retail pharmacy, create risks of anti-competitive conduct?
Yes, it certainly could in some of the ways that I described. If there's a silo where it's favoring its in-house operations, the question is whether it still has the incentive to make those same offerings available to others, and to what extent. I think they will try to have their cake and eat it too, and so how that changes will affect the quality of those choices that are still available.
Now, I asked Mr. Moriarty, and he says the following is not a concern for reasons you probably heard, but let me ask your opinion. Are you concerned that the proposed transaction would increase the risk of CVS Health steering Aetna enrollees to its own pharmacies or creating disadvantageous conditions for rivals?
Well, I think I don't envision something happening right away that suddenly the merged company wants to lock everybody else out, but it's a question over time. For example, one of the scenarios that was described is CVS taking its Minute clinics into markets in rural areas or underserved areas where there are no primary care physicians. Well, if they're meeting a need that can't be met some other way, I think that's an unmitigated good. But why would CVS stop at that point and say, we're only going to offer these profitable services in areas where there aren't primary care physicians? They're going to say, well, look, we've got it established. We'll move into the other areas. We can take some of the business away from the primary care physicians. So it's a continuum, and the question is where the line changes in terms of having your cake and eating it too.
And there are studies that indicate that health insurance premiums and insurer profits tend to rise in the wake of health insurance mergers. Is this also true for vertical acquisitions affecting the availability of health insurance, in your opinion?
I think it's more complicated, as a lot of people have discussed here, how vertical mergers affect the marketplace. They generally do provide opportunities for cost cutting within the new merged entity. Then there's a question of whether those are going to get passed along to others. And then on the other side, there is the potential for foreclosure if it's profitable to the combined entity to freeze out others or to disadvantage others or to make things hard, make life harder for others so that more business comes to it.
And as you note, the market for pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs, is highly concentrated, with just 3 PBMs accounting for 70 to 80% of the market. What effect will the proposed transaction have on competition in the PBM market? And do you believe that consumers would benefit from Aetna entrance into the PBM market through organic growth and competition rather than through this proposed transaction?
Well, we heard Aetna say that they had already looked at that a few years ago and decided that it didn't make sense for them to go into that market themselves, and that they would have a contractual relationship with CVS. I think absent the merger, they're going to take a fresh look at that. And if they say, you know what, it kind of makes sense for us to give this a try because we really have decided now that we want our own in-house PBM, and they did enter, then it would provide another major competitor in the concentrated PBM marketplace.
Thank you. I have one last question. There is general consensus, as you note in your written testimony, that behavioral remedies are not an effective tool to address harms to competition in merger enforcement. To the extent the Justice Department determines that there are anti-competitive harms of the proposed transaction, such as increasing the risk of vertical foreclosure or steering by the merging companies, how might they address these concerns? In other words, what mitigation or remedies might there be?
Well, in a vertical merger, it's very difficult to handle that with divestiture or partial structural remedies. You're really talking about deciding whether or not the merger should be blocked or not. The department has decided to challenge the AT&T Time Warner merger for that very kind of reason. If you don't do that, the behavioral remedies may be the only alternative. And so they can be considered as a last resort, but they're very time-consuming, very problematic to enforce. Like I said in my written statement, they actually require the merged company to act against its interests on a daily basis.
In other words, behavioral remedies are the only remedies and they don't work very well? Is that your testimony?
Well, the other remedy is to challenge the merger and to say it shouldn't go forward. And then there may be some others. I hope that the Justice Department will look at the full range of opportunities and will do whatever it can to protect competition.
Thank you. I yield back.